In 2004, things weren't going so well. Archie's job that he'd maintained in Bangkok had ended with Archie storming off and Archie working for himself. Archie's ex-wife, that's right, the wife that he had in Australia, had worked out that Archie had a new Asian lady friend. Her quests for money and support were insatiable. Archie had promised her a trip back to her home country, and she now wanted that fulfilled. Archie had used his credit cards to fund this new business of his. He never really had enough seed capital to do it right. So with payments due very soon on the Amex card, it was inevitable before Archie suffered a stroke of bad luck. Archie had two expensive Rolexes stolen while sent by FedEx. Archie had a number of issues with the Thai Postal Service, with items just going missing. Archie also had to keep the house payments at home going. He had two families to support, one in Thailand and one in Australia. With limited income, it was inevitable before the crash wasn't pleasant. Things weren't looking good. Before you knew it, within a couple of months, Archie had churned up a lot of credit on his credit card to fund living costs, and now the balance was due. Archie came back to Australia in 2004. He moved in to his dad's rental home, rent-free. His wife didn't want him back. No, she wouldn't want him back after he'd had multiple Asian ladies in between. There was no way that could be fixed. She wanted the divorce. No problems. Archie came back. He hated IT. He'd struggled for so long to try and find an IT job last time when he was in Australia doing IT work. He just wanted to do something completely different. Archie became a taxi driver for black and white cabs. And this was a huge loss for our very proud Archie. To be a proud, self-employed, successful businessman who had a beautiful European car, to suddenly have absolutely nothing, to suddenly be driving taxis, to be the absolute bottom rung in society, to be down and out, to be working long hours for very little coin. It was a hard reality to face, but this was the truth. This was the truth. Archie, what little money he got out of the divorce settlement went on paying off the credit cards. Archie was living rent-free. Archie didn't even have a car. He rented a yellow cab for $70 a week with 990,000 kilometers on the clock. It was what you would term a shitter. Whenever you parked it next to people didn't park near you because they didn't want their car next to your sort of car. It was the complete opposite to what Archie was used to. Times were tough. People said hello. He hid and pretended he didn't know them. The shame, the indignity, the shame of the whole matter. It was a very hard time. The only thing that kept Archie going was he was working such long hours. Taxi driving either starts at 4 a.m. or it ends at 4 p.m. Starts at 4 a.m. or starts at 4 p.m. It's a 12-hour shift, sunshine. 12-hour shift in the taxi. And when Archie came home, besides having a very quick meal, the only thing Archie wanted to do was sleep. Sleep. And in some ways there was probably the best thing, because he couldn't contemplate his fall in society, the status loss. He couldn't contemplate the losses that he'd incurred, the disaster that was his ex-marriage, the disaster that was his life. It was a very, very hard way to exist. Very hard, very uncomfortable way to exist. The depression. Could life get any worse? Driving taxis, living in his old man's house, not even being able to pay rent, just struggling to reduce debt, get back on his feet. Archie dreamed of going back to zero. Zero was a magical place where he wished to be. It was a very, very hard life indeed there. White privilege, being lower middle class, overweight, white guy. There ain't no white privilege, sunshine. It ain't the 1950s. This was the early 2000s, 2004 to be exact. And Archie was driving taxis, and he was hugely depressed. The depression, the indignity of it all, the indignity. It was hard. He was over 30. He had no girlfriend. He had no money. No car, nothing. There was nothing Archie got enjoyment or sustenance out of. It was like the depressionary times. No money, no honey, no nothing. ArchieLuxury's life was at an all-time low. He had success from his business. He couldn't start up another computer business. That market was crap. That was terrible. He couldn't get a job in IT. That was next to impossible to achieve. He'd already gone through there, applying for jobs. Oh, my God. He just wanted to jump in a car and drive a taxi. Archie was reduced from being a successful small business person to being a taxi driver. The disgrace, the embarrassment, the indignity. No European prestige sports sedan for Archie boy. No. We got a $70 a week shitter. $70 a week shitter. A yellow cab without the decals removed. Someone got a can of fiddly bits and spray painted where it said yellow cab in black. This was an embarrassing car. This is the sort of relative your black sheep uncle would drive and you cringe as it goes down the street. Archie had hit the lowest point in his life. Everything was grim. Everything was hopeless. Everything was a disaster. Archie's mental capacity was terrible. Absolute terrible. Archie just couldn't handle simple problems or anything. He just was in this stupor of depression, stupor of hopelessness, stupor of sadness. This was the ArchieLuxury. This was Archie at his worst. The depression, the indignity of it all.